Hello everyone. Welcome to this tutorial on Python Basics. In our previous tutorial, we were discussing about Python's functions. And in this tutorial, we will continue with the functions as well. And we are going to understand input parameters and return type in functions. So basic agendas are understanding input parameters and setting a default for an input in Python, understanding the return type in Python, and create a function with input parameters in return type. Actually, most of it we have done earlier, but we are going to reintroduce them just for the sake of a better understanding. So let's say for the purpose of this tutorial, I've already created a few simple functions. So here we have a function called xpower. So what it actually does is it takes a base and then index j, and it gives us the power. For example, if you are giving a value I called 2 and j called 4, it raises the 2 to the power of 4 and returns the give, and that is the value. So as you can see in the first function, we have applied two parameters. Actually, there could be endless parameters theoretically, but if there are lots of parameters, what I would suggest you do is pass some list or a sequence rather than just variables. This is going to be an easy task for you, better than typing a long list of input variables. We will come to that later on. But for the time being, as we can see, that we have calculated the power, and now we return this integer. If we try to run it, xpower equals, let's say the base is 2, and let's say the power is 4. Then we get 16, which is actually correct. Now let's try to see our next function. xpower 1. What we have done over here is we actually did some calculation along with the return statement. So even you can keep any sort of function over here for any small code block. Or you can even return a function which we will deal with in our next tutorial. Now in the next function, what we have done is we have put default parameters. And how does it work out for us? We are going to have a look at that. Just keep in mind that rather than just passing I, N, J, we have also specific constant values to them, and then return the result. So let's have a look at it. If we run xpower 1, it does the same thing. But however, the implementation is a little different. Rather than calculating the value and keeping it in a third variable, we have directly returned the calculation, and we have embedded the calculation along with the return statement. Let's try to do something which we didn't do so far. Let's just not provide it in the parameter. So as you can see, there is a type error because no parameters are provided, right? Now let's try to do the same with xpower 2 function and see what we get. Okay, this is interesting. We didn't provide any sort of parameters, but it still came up with the result. How did this happen? As you might remember, let's jump to the code. As you may remember that we have put here default values. Since these values are already defined for I and j, it doesn't matter if we provide them value or not. It still returns the calculation based on the default values. And in the case, if we define parameters, let's say 2 and 5, then it calculates based on the given values. So this is it. We are going to introduce more interesting concepts regarding the function in our next tutorial. So let's have a look. In our next tutorial, we are going to study about nested functions. This is a very small but a very useful concept which you might frequently encounter while programming with Python. Maybe not that frequently because it could not be a very good idea for nesting the function inside a function. Of this, of course, we're going to get acquainted with them. What I want you to do is, as you can see in our code, what I have done is I have actually thrown a type error. And this type error was caused because I didn't pass any parameter. Or while returning the values, let's say if we call something like this, then there is a type error. So what I want you to do is, as you have already introduced yourself with the exception handling, I want you to catch this exception and create a try-catch block for it. So best of luck, have a nice day.